Guys, I need a third person nearby so they can handle all the things. So when we go live, I can actually be looking at the. Oh, hello, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to GigaOm Live. I am your host, Johnny Baltisberger, and I am joined today by analyst Enrico Signoretti and Jason Collier. Now, this show is a show where normally we talk about tech news, as well as the research done at GigaOm over the last week. However, this week is special. We are near the end of the quarter, and whenever we're near the end of the quarter, GigaOm, we lose our minds. We have published 8 separate reports and done one webinar since last we spoke. So we're going to go over our research. There's a lot of it. A lot of it's very cool. We'll talk about some we'll just kind of mention. But let's dive into it. You ready, guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Now, the first report, we'll start with the beginning of last Friday. Essentially, we had the cost saving of replacing Kafka with Pulsar, which was a TCO report, a total cost of ownership report by William McKnight and Jake Dolezal that DataStax sponsored. Now, this is all about looking at benchmarks and how much various plans will cost you and what that gets into as far as cost analysis and cost comparison. Now, that's all finances, so we're not going to talk about it. Joking, of course. We're not talking about it because none of us is William McKnight or Jake Dolezal. So we are not the subject matter experts, the SMEs that they are. We also published, starting this week, Monday, we published Andrew Brust's GigaOm Radar for data catalogs. Now, Jason, before we went live, you were assuring me that this was a way for you to catalog data.
Yeah, it's you were asking you were you were asking what do data catalogs do, and I said, well, in what frame of reference? And because my frame of reference in using data catalogs was from the mainframe days, and you know what? Funny enough, the data catalog is still pretty much the same thing. It's effectively it's about cataloging where your data is stored across your entire organization, right? And funny thing, in mainframes they use data catalogs as well to when you think about those big mainframes, there were a bunch of different disks in there. So normally, we think of a single or couple of disks or something in a computer today. Well, those things had dozens with a bunch of different things. So trying to find something, you had to go to the catalog to figure out what disk it was actually on.
So, yep, we have that. Now, that's a radar report. So, as opposed to being about the technology itself, which would be the key criteria report, this report is about the various data catalog vendors in the marketplace. We look at all of their various metrics, evaluation metrics, key criteria, and we see where each vendor is and how they perform, not only by themselves, but kind of as a market landscape of where everything is. Speaking of radars, though, I don't know if either of you can help me with this one. The GigaOm Radar for Hybrid Cloud Data Protection for the Enterprise. Now, that was written by Arjan Timmerman and someone else. I'm not familiar. Enrico? Enrico, do you know anyone named Enrico?
So yes, this was a report that we started working on it quite a while ago because the number of vendors is huge, and we had to build 2 reports actually, one for enterprise and one for SMB, because also the feature set is quite different, and we wanted to be sure to not leave anything on the table for the evaluation. So it was a very interesting report. We found again a similar scenario from last year about the leaders, and then also that there are others that are accelerating quickly to close the gap and let's say renew their entire product lineup. So it's quite hot market because in the end of the day, there are some threats today that are not just about recovering your data for because you lost a storage system or a small recovery or whatever, but there is ransomware attacks and other issues like that for which a good backup is the only way you can save your company. And that's so more than ever there are a lot of investment in this area, even if many people consider backup a boring thing. Actually it is,
The
but it's essential.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, about that too, Enrico. When you're thinking about like ransomware and how that actually ties into the backup landscape, it really changes the way you've got to think about the way you arrange backups. A lot of the more sophisticated ransomware attacks have been embedded in a company for, like up to a year. Right.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're going after those backups as well. So there's, that ransomware infection has been, in there for over a year. We actually had one of our customers at my other company. Um, they were hit by a ransomware attack. They had it. It didn't. That they were able to pull off reasonable amount of data, but they had to go back, and one of their systems was corrupted. It was over a year, and they had been using kind of a snapshotting and backup strategy, and they did have backups from that old. But clearly, I mean, the data, if the data itself was in a compromised state, which thankfully that wasn't. I mean, that puts you in a very, very bad situation from a business perspective. I mean, it can shut you down easy.
And there is another thing that I think it's a good one. I mean, now that we have a better understanding on of the threat and how to find the right pattern. So when you start seeing a lot of files that are modified in a single day, for example, or accessed in a some in a manner that is not what you usually have, you can have mechanisms like AI, machine learning in general, that understand what is normal and what is not. And this also brought up other opportunities for this vendor because the same engines that they use for ransomware detection can be used for other things. So the all the data management stuff that comes with implementing a system that can understand your data and can see the various partners is very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So that there is a large data management aspect around backup that is really, really relevant. And it's not only about marketing part of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most of the backup vendors now define themselves as data management companies, but actually, if you look at what they do, data management is very a minor thing. Is much more
Yeah.
a marketing stuff at the moment. Some of them are really have really understood what it could be and what they could do with the data that they are storing. At the end of the day, backup is a consolidation point, and so starting from there, you can really find a lot of information about your data, what you're using, why, etc., etc.
Now, one of the first times I sat down and spoke to our analyst Chris Grundeman, he,
Sorry.
Enrico. Uh, one of the first times I sat down and spoke with our analyst Chris Grundeman, he mentioned the broccoli of internet, and basically that was the stuff that no one really wants to do, no one enjoys doing, no one likes, but you have to do it to keep healthy. And data backup is broccoli. It may not be exciting. You just said it's boring, but as a consumer, as just a normal dude, not a CEO, not a CTO, backing up what I am working on is essential. the idea that people would not eat their broccoli of data backup is really kind of heart-wrenching for me. So interesting stuff. It's always interesting when we get to these technologies that are broccoli to me. You know what I mean? We have another report from William McKnight and Jake Dolezal. This is the Cloud Analytics Platform Total Cost of Ownership Report, another TCO. We won't go deep into this one. Like I mentioned, we aren't the subject matter experts, but I will say this one is a little bit more broad than the cost saving of replacing Kafka with Pulsar, which is really just one use case. This is more. This is a little more broad. Might have a little more use for a wider audience. Speaking of Chris Grundeman, he also, or rather his team, Logan Andrew Green and Karen Martin, put out a report this week called "The Key Criteria for Evaluating Security Information in Event Management Solutions," or SIEM. Jason, you assured me you knew what this was.
Yeah, I actually. This is a. SIEM is actually a fun topic. It's when you stop and think about how that industry got started, it was basically log analyzers and log analyzer management, right? Where you could aggregate system logs from a bunch of different things, but there have been some really interesting ways in which you can utilize that. One of the ways in which I use technologies like that is I have a system that I put out on my home network here that analyzes attack vectors. So I've got an open SSH port, just sits there and listens. It won't accept anything other than key authentication, and it's running on a Raspberry Pi. So it's like there's really not much you can do. I just set it out there on the network, but then I take those logs and effectively analyze where attack vectors are coming. There's some other security features you can kind of enable just to see if people are trying to attack it from specific IPs, block it, and all this stuff. But it's very interesting because I can track down, you can track down kind of the nation states of where these attack vectors are coming from. And I actually can even drill down into, like, when you're doing kind of the reverse IP lookups, I've got this little global map on there where I can narrow down into the neighborhoods in Paris where attack vectors are coming from. So it's pretty interesting, the amount of information and basically intelligence that you can glean from these systems inside of any business network. That's a single use case on how you can use it. But yeah, you think that's a single use on a single box. Now imagine if you were looking at the aggregating the attack vectors across a large enterprise, right? It gives you some really interesting insights into your network.
That is fascinating, and thank you, because again, Enrico and I were kind of sitting here with our hands in the air, like this isn't my specialty. We did have a key criteria for evaluating. Good night. You say that word and often enough, it loses all meaning. Key criteria for evaluating data loss prevention platforms from analyst Paul Stringfellow. This one is not a great mystery shrouded in technobabble. Unlike multimodal change data capture, data loss prevention platforms, it is what it says on the box, and you can learn all about that technology by going to GigaOm.com and reading Paul's report. We also had the GigaOm radar for low-code, no-code solutions. That is from John Collins, our VP of Research, and Michael Delzer. Now, this is going to make some people uncomfortable, but I can actually talk about this. I had a fantastic time talking with Michael Delzer about low-code, no-code solutions after his key criteria came out. So we chatted about it, and you can get that full interview on GigaOm.com or wherever you get your podcast by listening to Voices in Innovation from GigaOm. Low-code, no-code, again, it is sort of what it says on the box. The example I really clung to in that conversation was WordPress. WordPress can be a no-code solution where you go in, you plug in whatever theme you want, and then drag and drop pictures like Dreamweaver back in my my high school days of learning HTML and programming. Why do you learn this? I just pull up this thing and I can make a terrible website in minutes. On the other hand, WordPress can also be a low-code solution, right? Where you know just enough HTML to make things look a little nicer, or it can be a really, bespoke option, such as GigaOm.com. We have an amazing engineer named Jamie, who does incredible work and who makes things look pretty, and somehow makes it so I can use it and upload all of our stuff. So low-code, no-code solution was really a fascinating topic for us, because it offers so many options for so many people. It's a very cool technology, and I think it's a cool report. Definitely go and check out both the key criteria and the GigaOm radar that went live this week. Finally, the final report that went live yesterday, because trust me, I'll have a bunch going live today that we'll talk about next week, was the key criteria for evaluating data warehouses. Now, I saw the word data, and I was sure, Enrico, you could help me with this one, but you informed me that data warehouses was not your specialty, and then Jason, you told me data warehouses were somewhere they stored data. So also unhelpful. Look, I'm joking around, but our analysts are in the field. All these guys work in these industries, and we have very specialized information. So sometimes, in cases like this with data warehouses, yes, it's something big in technology, but it's not something that in their roles in various companies that these two gentlemen have worked with extensively before, enough to really dive into the nitty gritty of it. But again, going to gigaom.com, you can check out Andrew's report for the key criteria for evaluating data warehouses, or his radar for data catalogs. You can find all of that information there. Andrew also did a webinar this week on Wednesday. That webinar was Modernize Your Data Pipelines with Multimodal Change Data Capture. And that's the last time I'm saying that one on air.
Try again, because
No, sir. You missed it. That's it. You can go watch the YouTube videos backlog to see me say it. You can make a supercut of me doing it over and over again if you like. We do have two webinars coming out next week, though. Another one from Andrew Brust, Machine Learning, Production Grade and Industry Strength, which will obviously be about machine learning and AI. That is going to be with Cloudera on the 22nd, which is Tuesday. And then Enrico, you have one on Thursday with Clumio, Understanding Cloud Backup and Best Practices. I'm assuming data catalogs and data warehouses will not be part of that conversation.
No. It is again about, backup and why cloud backup is different from traditional backup, with other mechanisms that are more useful and, cost effective also, because one of the problem of public cloud is cost. And so how to keep costs down with a decent backup, how to avoid some mistakes about cloud backup. So it will be quite interesting also, because we will have a user in the panel, so that tested different technologies. And I think I really enjoy when we have different point of view. So me, the vendor, the user, gives a little bit of everything, and it's more, let's say, spicy.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
I always enjoy the word spicy thrown into anything, really, but I'm a Texan, so spicy is sort of my go-to. So that is what we were up to this week, in case you ever think that we're not just going all out. We'll have more this next week. Like I said, things are moving very quickly. And I'm actually going to cut or end this episode in the next couple of minutes because we have more work to do, guys. So I want to thank both Enrico and Jason for joining me today. Jason, you can be found on Twitter at Bocanuts, and Enrico, Signoretti, both on Twitter. You can also find us at GigaOm there. But more than Twitter, I really recommend you come to GigaOm.com where you can read our blogs. We had 2 new articles go up today, in fact. You can sign up for our webinars. You can catch our webinars that we did in the past on video on demand. You can also subscribe to our research, which give you the full breadth of our reports our analysts have written, our writing, will write, all of that. It's mountains of research that, you know, us on the editorial and production team spend a lot of time making those readable, taking the techno babble and making it something you can consume. So for all your future, you know, when I record podcasts, I can edit those out. I didn't stumble over any words. I am a flawless, silver-tongued man. For all your future forward advice, GigaOm.com has you covered. Guys, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny.
And to everyone out there, have a great weekend. We are going to be busy.